Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to a truly special and probably very mind-blowing event today. It's called Explore Quantum Acoustics, Biophysics, and Consciousness. Use frequency to improve brain states, break thought loops, and support the nervous system. My name is Stephen Knight, and I'm the founder and president of the Shift Network. And one of the things I love is just having my paradigm expanded. And we're going to get a real treat today because we're going to dive in with one of the world's pioneers in the field of sound healing neuroacoustic research. His name is Dr. Jeffrey Thompson. He's a physician, musician, and founder and director of the Center for Neuroacoustic Research. He's taught a number of programs for Shift, and he's always pushing the envelope of understanding further and understanding how fields come together, and it's always fascinating. So if you get excited by today, we have a brand new program with Jeffrey coming up called Quantum Acoustics, Biophysics, and Consciousness. It's really going to be an amazing program. We'll share more about that towards the end of the hour if you want to go further. So Jeffrey, thank you so much for joining us again.
Great to be here. I love you guys. So it's my joy and pleasure.
Ah, well, let's dive in with, there's a lot to cover. You just even the subjects, quantum acoustics, biophysics, and consciousness. I mean, we're covering a lot of domains here, but maybe start with a little bit about your journey into these frontiers, why you started to, you really took on exploring the frontiers of how these different fields could interface with each other and lead to real healing applications for humanity.
Well, I think my story is similar to most of us. There were key events that took place in my childhood and when I was growing up. And in the 60s, I went to art school. I was a musician and a composer and a filmmaker and an artist. And then this is in the 60s. And I had some businesses. The next thing I know, I went to chiropractic school in order to learn anatomy and physiology from a medical level, because this is a universal textbook of universal law. It's here in anatomy and physiology. I was not disappointed, but all of it was part of my larger spiritual journey, spiritual search to find out the meaning of why I'm here and what it's all about. And in the course of all that, all of these things sort of wove together in clinical practice, where I began to explore sound as a healing tool in a clinical practice, in a clinical way. That evolved and expanded over the years to what it is now, with sophisticated heart rate variability monitors that can monitor the autonomic nervous system and balance the sympathetic and parasympathetic with precisely tuned sound waves. And octaves and harmonics of those, like we see in music theory, are brainwave frequencies that are very precise. And so now we can pick the lock of neural programs of consciousness and make them run that are deeply associated with balance in the core of the nervous system. And to me, that's being able to scientifically pick the lock of my safe place, my zero stress zone inside my master control center that tells all systems what to do. If I can put that in its ultimate balance place where I feel safe, to me, that's the key of healing, and that's the key of highest states of meditation. I have to be able to find this place where I feel safe and comfortable to open all my doors and windows to the universe and allow it in with no concerns that there might be something in the corners that's a threat.
Hmm.
That I might be wary, that's a distraction, that if I can get my field clear and safe, I can open and allow it in.
Hmm.
So my approach from that standpoint is a scientific, biological way of picking the lock of that place using sound waves and brainwave entrainment and vibration through a sound table or a sound chair, and align all these forces together with resonance and vibration and entrainment to open that place up.
I love that. So it's like finding that safe, clear place just naturally opens us to the universe. And let's kind of go to looking at some of the big picture. I want to start with a little bit of how vibration is really sort of very foundational to the way the universe is really even designed, and how that sort of gives rise to a lot of the things that matter in life.
Well, I think most of the people in the shift audience would understand that what appears to be solid is not solid. It's essentially cells made of atoms, made of uh, protons, electrons, neutrons, made of quarks and charms and hadrons. And the smaller the particles you break open, the more you realize that they weren't particles at all when you zoomed in close enough. They're just resonating energy fields. Uh, from a quantum standpoint, those energy fields are sort of not decided yet. That there's a number of different infinite number of possibilities of what they could be, and when you look at them, they become one of those. So that means the interaction of my attention, my focus, my consciousness decides what's going to be so. That's pretty profound. That it means that the next moment for now is an open book of an infinite field of all possibilities. And me, consciousness arriving on the scene to witness which one is going to take place, um, picks which one is going to happen. And it's my deep unconscious mind's expectation of what's going to happen, which chooses one of those. And the universe is looking for that as a path of least resistance to make one of them real. And that's my job. My expectation of what the next moment is going to be makes one of those real, and the universe jumps to the chance to save energy by making that choice manifest. So, what does that say about this concept that we talk about a lot of, how do I change my reality? How do I manifest? And none of it is coming from here. This is the small part that doesn't have the power. The power comes from someplace underneath the hood that is sort of big mind. I begin to change my expectation, and the world changes with me. So I can change my expectation just by, this concept of gratitude. That when I look at my life and I think, what I have in my life is 99.9% better than most of the people in the world. That there are people who would grovel to have what I've got: a roof over my head, water coming out of the tap, heat or air conditioning, a car, clothes on my back. That's profound. That when I look and become grateful for the things I have and the opportunities that I have been able to accomplish, and the people who have come into my life, that gratitude causes a resonance in the field. And that, through sympathetic resonance, attracts more of that type of resonance to me. The more gratitude I have about and the more thankful I am for my life, the more wonderful people show up and the better things get.
Hmm. So in some ways, a lot of the sound healing work is helping us to create a better resonance pattern, which attracts a different reality, it sounds like.
Sound has stood the test of time in every culture as the premier tool for exactly that.
Hmm.
If I'm sitting and trying to meditate and my brain is going, crazy, and I'm getting bored, and somebody brings a Tibetan bowl and bangs the Tibetan bowl, all of a sudden all that stops. It instantly centers me and quiets my mind through a constellation of things that we don't want to get into here. It's the alloy of the metal and what that sounds like. But within those Tibetan bowls, when you do a Tibetan bowl, you'll hear there's a pulsing in there, because the curved edges of the bowl is different diameters that each has its own frequency, and they're interacting, creating binaural beats that are entraining your brain waves to an altered state. It's a monophonic binaural beat created, 3 or 4 thousand years ago. Yeah, whenever I'm in my laboratory right here. I'm surrounded by keyboards, electronic equipment, and and I'm delving into all this cool, high-tech stuff for brainwaves and all the rest of it. And I've consistently find out just when I'm getting proud of myself that the Tibetans did it 3,000 years ago. Uh, those little tin shaws, the two little bells with the leather thong that look like two
Hmm.
little flying saucers, right? You bang those together, and those two bells are tuned to slightly different frequency that create a binaural beat. So that is truly,
There it is, 5,000 years old.
and when the leather thong is the right length, you can put one in front of each ear and get a true binaural effect that causes synchronicity of the hemispheres, which now we only get with headphones. I mean, what?
That's
Who,
amazing. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
like, who are these people? What? It just goes to show that the spirit of humanity is the same. The tools have evolved into something different that we've got now. Now we've got unprecedented levels of precision in our tools of measuring what's happening in the brain, what's happening in the nervous system. Super tools like one of my keyboards back here, I can tune between any two notes by 100 steps with a digital readout. So I can get extremely precise with tone generation and explore what highly precise frequencies do to biology and the brain and consciousness. We haven't ever had these sort of tools
Yeah.
before,
So there's some
unless we
rediscovery
did
and
it
some new
in humanity.
discovery. So let's
Right?
talk.
Yeah.
I want to ask about quantum acoustics. So we have these we in the title for today we're talking about quantum acoustics, biophysics, and consciousness, which threads through what we were saying. But like let's understand what is quantum acoustics and what are the new quantum understandings informing us about how how to engage in sound healing that really optimizes our whole system.
I think that most of the people that I talk to don't understand that the universe is not just electromagnetism. When I went to school, we learned the electromagnetic spectrum, where you've got low electromagnetic frequencies down here that might be brain waves, and faster, they're radio waves and television waves, and up high, they're gamma waves and cosmic rays. And in the middle there is a little narrow spectrum of color, electromagnetic fields, photons. The second grand force of the universe is sound, light and sound is not on the electromagnetic spectrum. It's the only thing in the universe that is not. Sound is pure energy moving through a medium at a certain frequency resonance. The When we talk about electromagnetism, we're talking about photons. When we're talking about quantum sound, we're talking about phonons. Phonons is the quantum particle of a sound wave that imparts energy through the mediums of the universe. And in the past, when we think that, well, the universe is a vacuum, so sound can't travel through a vacuum, it requires a medium. But now we know that the vacuum is not a vacuum, that it's filled with boiling nexuses of quantum energy fields called quantum foam, that when we see photons as having mass, photons have negative mass. Uh, Photons also have negative gravity, that sound waves float up and light waves float down. It really is a mirror image. It's really the yin yang of reality. And so when you are dealing with sound waves in the right way, and we are resonant beings built up from layers and layers, quantum layers into atom layers into cell layers, and those are all resonant fields like sand on a plate vibrating, forming standing waves. Those patterns look real until you look close enough, and they're just dancing sand particles in patterns. That's our body. Resonant fields nested together with sacred geometry standing waves that form something that looks real. So when we're talking about sound waves impacting the system, the quantum level of that interaction with our own quantum fields is unimaginably profound, which sort of brings us to another conversation, which is the power of word. The fact that we choose sound as a way of communicating with each other, that we take a breath and contract our vocal cords and make a resonant vibrational field and shape it with our mouth and shoot that shaped packet of sound waves out at each other. and and
Interesting description.
those packets have meaning, but only think about it, it's only less than 1% of the sound is channeling down your ear that makes the earring. The 99% of all those sound waves, those shaped packets, are impacting your body as an energy field that pushes on your cells and distorts their shapes and causes a piezoelectric discharge of electrical impulses in the shape of the sound. And that's how the micro scaffolding of your microtubular scaffolding of all your cells, which are crystalline structures, which maximize the piezoelectric effect, means that the sound waves hitting your body are translated into electromagnetic field waves in the shape of the sound that travel through your whole system down to the smallest particles in your body, into your DNA. So when we start thinking about the Sanskrit texts of Sutras of Patanjali, when you chant these sacred texts, you don't need to have an English translation. The shaped packets, one after the other, of me chanting those sacred texts impact the body with vibrational fields that communicate directly to the deep unconscious mind. No translation necessary. Um, what does that say about the modern world? When we start to align and combine together the correct choice of words, uh, aligning that with our knowledge of Ericksonian hypnosis or Jungian psychology or NLP and sentence structure and word use, that we start to elevate the use of word to another dimension, particularly if we use those words in tune with the fundamental resonant frequency that makes us what we are, the frequency that puts us in our safe spot, right? So when I activate my vocal cords with my brain, that's the vagus nerve, right? Activates, controls the vocal cords. So when I start to blow wind across the vocal cords to make some sound like an ohm sound, the resonant vibration is causing vagus nerve stimulation with vibration, right? And that puts me into a relaxed mode, which aids the process. And now we create a positive feedback loop between vagus nerve activating the vocal cords and the vocal cords resonance activating the vagus nerve, and the two of them now start to form this loop of resonance, loop of relaxation, loop of opening the place in me, the power of chant.
Hmm. There's so many threads. You're just always blowing my mind, Jeffrey. So, how does this? So, circling back to like how we can, on a practical level, use frequency to sort of shift brain states and sort of like dissolve some of the thought loops that are no longer helpful. Just maybe share like how does it kind of like ground into like what frequencies to use and how to do that.
Well, that's the sort of, I guess, the core thing that always needs to be addressed. I'm addicted to the sort of the mind-blowing nature of reality down to the quantum field. I'm exploring that all the time. I would be perfectly happy with stuffing myself with all of this cool cosmic information, but it doesn't have any meaning unless it has a practical application in my life. But that's what's addictive about it, because the more you learn about how this whole system works, the more you realize how the body is set up specifically to use these resonant fields in order to wake up. Uh, that's where we have this concept of what, like I just talked about, the power of chant, not just any chant. What tone are you chanting in? Back in the past, we had the masters and we had the shamans and we had the organization of society in such a way that we were brought up learning. But the masters have sort of all retired and we don't have that guidance anymore. I could go to the master who would see that I'm vibration and sing that vibration to me, my root frequency. And I would go back and chant to myself as I meditated that frequency that would put me in this place where all these things would start to open up. Now we can do that with tech, HRV, EEG, fMRI studies. These kind of devices now show us which frequencies do that job so that we can use a new science of consciousness and use these tools that we've got to bring these secrets that we know to bear and to understand more about why they worked in the first place, why the sutras of Patanjali caused such massive responses, why Om chanting, why chanting in circles and groups is important. The whole concept of group cohesion, group. So, for instance, if we have, I think we're going to do some of that today. If we have a group of people who um, are meditating together, then they're magnetizing a field that if you and I get close enough together, the electromagnetic fields from our bodies, particularly the heart field, start to mingle together. That creates something called a coupled oscillator pair. We start to, under the hood, dance together and synchronize up. Brain waves, heart waves, biological processes start to synchronize just by being in proximity. If we hold hands, we magnify the effect because now we're connected by an electromagnetic modem of skin conduction that magnifies that process. So if we have a bunch of people in a circle holding hands and doing an Om chant, now it's more powerful. And when you do that kind of a thing, you'll see that when the Om chant first starts, it's sort of cacophonic. Like no, the group is trying to find what note it's supposed to be singing together, and eventually the group will center itself on a single frequency that everybody sings together. That is a coupled oscillator network in action. That's the group of biological systems aligning themselves together through a coupled oscillator network where everything in the universe wants to dance together to the same drum beat to save energy, but nobody's beating the drum except everyone by consensus vote. It's a spontaneous arising synchronization that happens with people of like mind, that happens with people of particularly of like mind in physical proximity. Now, in a situation like this, we can do an electromagnetic version of that because consciousness itself is across all dimensions. That the fact that you are there, wherever you are sitting in your room there, and I'm here in Southern California sitting in my room, and all the other people that are watching right now sitting in their own little rooms in different parts of the country or the world, it's an illusion that you're over there and I'm over here. A good friend of mine who was a fellow professor at, I was on a faculty of a graduate school, surrounded by amazing people, William Tiller and Valerie Hunt and Deepak Chopra and Cleve Baxter. Cleve Baxter was the father of lie detection. He's the one that did the experiment with this plant, which ended up with the book, The Secret Life of Plants. This concept that that he hooked his plant up to his lie detector machine. And one of the things is a skin conduction thing, GSR. He damaged the plant leaf, and the plant had a stress response on his lie detector machine, which is impossible because it doesn't have a nervous system. When he started pushing this experiment, the next time he went to damage the leaf, the plant had a response from his intention of harm. Uh, then he did it with people. Take a leukocyte scraping of DNA from the inside of your cheek and put it in a test tube of saline solution at body temperature and put two silver electrodes down there. That's your GSR. Put you in another part of the building, hook up to the lie detector machine, pass an electrical charge through your cells in the test tube to harm them, and you have a stress response 350 feet away in another room on the lie detector machine. Separating them by 350 miles, timed against the atomic clock in Cheyenne, Wyoming, accurate to 1 second in 10,000 years, right? Proved that the phenomenon is outside of time. It's simultaneous, outside of time. Now we're getting into the quantum realm of entanglement. So as soon as we have a group of people who are together in close proximity, as soon as your electromagnetic fields touch and mingle, you're entangled forever.
Whoa.
If you touch, if you hold hands in that circle, the entanglement is now accentuated. You now are forever joined at the hip for every person that you've ever met or interacted with. They're all there in the grand tapestry of the population of your unconscious mind experience. All those are there. And as you refine yourself, as you go further along in your spiritual path and you mature spiritually, the quality of the experiences that begin to show up in your life and the quality of the people that start to show up in your life improves.
Hmm.
It's
Starts to create a positive feedback loop that as you're harmonizing your system, then you're going to kind of pull in the next
according to
resonant
Carl
pattern. Yeah.
Jung, your reality is an external projection of your unconscious mind. So it means that all the people that you meet are really external projections of people in your unconscious mind, portions of your personality projected into the external world. What you're searching for when you come across a master, an enlightened master, and you stand in their presence, you just met that master on the inside, projected externally. Uh, that is a progressive evolution of yourself is projected into your experience in the world by the type of people and the type of experience and the types of opportunities that begin to show. All of it starts with me and my attitude.
Hmm. Truly
My
fascinating, Jeffrey. Well, you mentioned that we were going to do a little bit of an experience of this as well today. So why don't you go ahead and introduce that and let's do the experience to get a bit more of a taste of what you're talking about.
Sure. The one of the first examples of this concept of brainwave entrainment, and in particular group entrainment, is shamanic drumming. When you analyze shamanic drumming, the drum beat is around 5 hertz, and 5 hertz is a mid-range theta wave. Theta brain activity is where you go when you're dreaming. So when you're doing the drumming experience, you're taking a person from beta awake down through alpha, down into theta, into a dream state without going to sleep first. Classic definition of a trance state, a shamanic journey state. And so now we can use brainwave entrainment to entrain your brainwaves to theta. And if you know your stuff and you're going to bury it in a soundtrack, then the soundtrack itself should be a certain type of composition which would lend itself to that same state without the entrainment. Right? You would think it would be mystical and dreamlike and right. So that's me as a composer and sort of an expert in this field where that's what I do. I create soundtracks that lend themselves to a certain brain state and populate with brainwave entrainment to push the envelope of the experience. And that's what we're going to do today. It's a theta brainwave entrainment soundtrack. It lasts for 6.5 minutes. It's best with headphones. So it would be good if everybody's got some headphones to put on um, because there's 3D, advanced 3D technologies here, and there's binaural beats that cause synchronicity of the hemispheres, which opens something new in the brain that's only possible with headphones. If you can't find headphones, make sure that you got the stereo speakers on either side so you can feel the effect. Are we ready?
Let's do it.
Here we go. Eyes closed.
Very cool.
Seems to be a time warp. I was
Yeah.
six and a
So
half minutes
you want to
ago.
take us under the hood of what's going on there?
Um, One thing I learned early on in clinical practice, all of this came from clinical practice. I was in practice for over 40 years with patients, using sound as the core with a number of holistic therapies around that. This concept of the fundamental frequency and brain entrainment. And as a composer, um, I was working with a company in New York, a publishing company for my soundtracks. And they wanted to do a 4 CD set called Brainwave Suite. Uh, CD1 would be alpha, CD2 would be theta, CD3 would be delta, and CD4 would be something called the awakened mind pattern. But I was faced with, as a composer, what's the difference between alpha music and theta music and delta music? That was sort of a new one for me. If I wanted to entrain you to an alpha state with no entrainment, what kind of music would I make? Same thing with theta. We're talking about theta. We just listened to theta. So um, then it turned out that there was track one and track two on each CD. And they wanted track one to be light to mid alpha, track two to be mid to deep alpha. And now I have a new problem. What's the difference between light to mid alpha as music and mid to deep alpha as music? So this launched me into a whole new world of exploration of playing emotions and states of consciousness with music itself. And the first thing that became obvious was, if I really want to cut you free listening to a soundtrack, then the landscape cannot be familiar. I can't use the regular musical rules that we're all used to. Western musical rules in particular that we're all familiar with, where you have an opening stanza, an A and a B, and an A and a chorus, and an A and a B and a conclusion. As soon as you've got that structure, your brain is engaged. It stays engaged to give it dopamine hits to predict. I bet you I know what's going to happen next. And when it happens, I get a dopamine hit. And now I'm engaged in my brain and I'm not letting go. So I have to break those rules. I created something called non-linear music, music that is beautiful in a musical space where the rules are all gone, that you're in this tapestry of textures and movement and sort of melodies that are drifting around, but you don't know what's coming next because there's no rules in this game that you're familiar with, and that forces you to let go. So that's just one of the techniques to help you to cut free and float and allow the process to take over without your brain engaged of trying to predict where it's going to go. That's extremely important. In many cases, I would start compositions with familiar territory, with a composition that would seem to have musical rules that you could hang on. But then it would start to drift and come apart and disentangle, and the next thing you know, you're floating free. Um, so with this and with theta entrainment mixed in with theta type of drifting, sort of mystical music, it's the stuff that dreams are made of. Theta is dream state, REM sleep, dream state. Dream state is famous for being no rules and being mystical and being populated with allegorical, metaphorical, surreal imagery. Um, my favorite kind of music, by the way. But
Hmm.
alpha would be a little bit more upbeat. would be way the hell down in deep unconscious territory. In deep sleep, that's where you go there, where you're not aware that you're here, you're not aware you're listening to anything, you're sort of in a null state. And those became some of my most successful CDs. Sleep is big business.
Hmm.
Why? Because we're all too stressed out to go to sleep. We're running a vigilant program, so we won't allow ourselves to go to the deep delta sleep stage.
Hmm.
Physical recuperation happens there. And if you don't get that, you start to get sick.
Well, it sounds like you can really take each segment of our lives from the deep sleep to the most creative expression and really sort of enhance it with it's kind of a frequency programming.
That's that's the mind-blowing nature of starting to explore these realms, where you realize that every experience I have has an electromagnetic rhythmic nature in my brain. That this concept of rhythmic discharges of neurons in my brain waves, the discharges are happening in synchronicity with each other that cause the next row to fire and the next row to fire and sweep waves of depolarization across the cortex brain waves. And the speed of those waves is directly linked to various states of consciousness. So if I've got 20 sweeps per second, that's beta. That's engaged in my regular world, concentrated with a focus and attention, doing my work in front of a computer. That's 20 hertz. That's brainwave speeds going at a certain speed that is directly related with that state of consciousness. But if I slow those down into alpha and cross over to 13 hertz and go down to say 10 hertz, there's a lot of research that shows 10 hertz alpha is a magic frequency for meditation. Um, if I slow that down more to 5 hertz, which is what we just experienced, I start entering into dream phase mode. And then if I go down to, 2 hertz delta, that's deep sleep mode, where I generally am not experiencing the sort of allegorical, metaphorical images that I experience in a theta state. I'm sort of in this blank mode where very deep stuff is sort of happening. However, in the late 80s, they discovered gamma at 40 hertz faster than the highest beta that they'd ever seen. And the gamma, that was discovered with open brain surgery with the EEG electrodes right on the brain itself, where they could pick up these exotic high frequencies that they couldn't before because the higher the faster the frequency of brain waves, the lower the amplitude. It's like a closed energy box. If I want to create 30 brain firings per second, the energy is spread out to make 30, so the amplitudes are low. But if I only have to make 2 in delta, each one of those 2 is huge in its amplitude because the energy is filling it up that way. At 40 hertz gamma, the amplitude is too low to penetrate the skull, so nobody could ever see it. Take the skull off and put the electrodes right on the brain, all of a sudden you can pick up 40 hertz, 100 hertz, 200 hertz. Now they've picked up 650 hertz, 2,500 hertz. What does this even mean? We'll discuss this.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, Jeffrey, you just realms upon realms of information that you can share, and so much that you've already shared today. And I want to spend some time now talking about your upcoming course, which is really a unique opportunity to go to these frontiers and apply them in a powerful way in our lives. So Jeffrey's agreed to teach his brand new program I mentioned earlier. It's called Quantum Acoustics, Biophysics, and Consciousness. Use sound to regulate the nervous system, improve brain states, and support healing. You can find it at the URL neurosoundhealing.com, neurosoundhealing.com. I'd love for Jeffrey, you just start us off by sharing some of your intentions for what people will come away with.
there's a there's an interesting phenomenon in the quantum field when we talk about consciousness. particularly some of the latest versions that have come out of Sir Roger Penrose, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, and um, a, a, a neurosurgeon named Hameroff. They've come up with this new theory called the ORC field, which is quantum field activity inside the microtubules. That's the scaffolding in all the cells in your body, in particular neurons. So the neurons in your brain have a scaffolding of unimaginably small microtubules that are made of a crystalline structure. And a property of crystals that have crystalline structure, like these guys, you know, what's special about this is the lattice work of atomic structure that can hold memory. Uh, and if I put pressure on this crystal, it generates an electrical pulse called a piezoelectric discharge. And it turns out that all the biochemistry in your body is balanced on a razor edge between colloidal fluids, colloidal water, and liquid crystal water. And what pushes it over the edge is pressure, putting pressure. Consciousness can put pressure. You can cause piezoelectric discharges with a thought because thinking is a real thing. Quantum fluctuations take place inside these microtubules, inside all the neurons of your brain, where quantum processes are moment after moment, the infinite field of all possibilities. And my consciousness is choosing which one because of my expectation of what the next moment is going to be happening inside all the quantum tubules inside all the neurons in your brain. They are proposing that moment after moment after moment, my expectation chooses and the field collapses to one of those possibilities. That collapse, that collapse, that collapse, that collapse, moment after moment after moment after moment is our perception of time. We are creating the frames of a movie. And as the movie rolls forward, it becomes more powerful and more powerful for our expectation to be the next frame of the movie.
Mm.
Therefore, this is the movie that if that's true, if moment by moment by moment we're arriving on the doorstep of a closed box, that's the next moment with the lid flies off and we look in the box and it's an infinite field of all possibilities, and my expectation galvanizes the next moment to be a continuation of this one. Why is it always my next word and you sitting over there listening? Why? Because we believe that this is what reality looks like, that we believe that reality is people in bodies surrounded by things, and that time moves forward and we have memories and we've got stuff. I've got photographs. I've got a son who will swear on a Bible that I'm 78 years old, and all of it's ersatz. There is no past. That the patient who had come to me who believed that all of her problems was because she was molested by her uncle when she was 5, excuse me, you were never 5, and there was never an uncle. That is a new frame in the movie that you are right now constructing from whole cloth, plus all the memories, plus all the stuff to support the idea that you live in a body and you're X years old and you have these problems. If that's true, the question now is the pain and the suffering that you are experiencing and the health problems and all the rest of it that might be happening in your life. What's the perk for your spirit for manufacturing the story moment by moment by moment and continuing manufacturing the story? What's the lesson for you? What's the perk for your spirit? Once you get the perk, you don't need that story anymore and it goes away. This is the kind of idea behind spontaneous remission. that I get a cancer death sentence, and the power of that drives me to the deepest part of my unconscious mind before thinking in some other realm where it brings me to the doorstep of the next moment from now, and something in my spirit rises up and says, no, absolutely not. I am not going to live the story of some guy who dies of an inoperable brain tumor. Ain't going to happen. But it comes from my gut. It's not coming from an idea. It's coming from something inside of me that's so powerful that I step into a different corridor of outcomes where I don't have the cancer anymore. I make it so.
Whoa, that's amazing. Well, so let's do at least a quick tour of the modules here since there's so much we could share. So module one is understand how vibration interacts with living systems through the quantum nature of sound.
Well, so, the in the beginning was the sound, and then there was light. There's a phenomenon called sonoluminescence. You take a spherical container and you fill it with water and you put two speakers on either side, and the sound that comes in is tuned to the radius of the sphere. That forces the sound waves to meet exactly in the middle with maximum pressure. That creates a bubble. The bubble collapses, called cavitation. And when it collapses with cavitation, it forms a light. Photons are created from phonon interactions. Light created from sound. And that light is brighter than the sun and hotter than the sun. And the explosions continue so fast that it appears to be, they call it a star in a jar. There's every possibility that the electromagnetic spectrum is creating sound, and sound is creating electromagnetism in the grand yin-yang of the universe. And at the core of all things is the quantum resonance field in a state of eternal vibration. It's a sea of all possible vibrations. It's sort of like an infinite still pool of water with millions of raindrops hitting the surface, creating ripple patterns that are interacting with other ripple patterns, creating an unimaginably complex sacred geometry series of patterns, except it's not on a plane. It's three-dimensionalized. It's a sphere. That is the center of the quantum interaction in every atom of your body, which makes the cells, which makes the compounds, which makes the cells in the body. And so we are this extremely active, multiple layered, textural, vibrational, standing wave interaction that is in constant motion. And it's all sound. It's resonance, it's vibration. So to align those vibrations, to learn technologies that can align those vibrations so they support each other, creates a whole new experience of my life. That behind that is energy and awakening and healing and magnetizing my environment and my experience of what comes into my life and who shows up. So there's a science behind that, and that's pretty much what we'll be exploring, where vibrational technologies that deliver vibrations right into your body, like a sound chair or a sound table, binaural beats that not only play through your ears, but play through your body in stereo. So it's important to have the sound table divided right-left stereo separation, so it's headphones for the body. This concept of headphones with binaural beats causes synchronicity of the hemispheres. Synchronicity of the hemispheres is deeply associated with the aha moment. Whenever I have an epiphany, synchronicity happens and something drops through. Now we can float you in that state for prolonged periods of time. if we align that properly with which state of consciousness we're training you to and what frequencies we're using to do that, because we've measured what frequencies work best for you, we have a new science of consciousness awakening.
Right. Well, module two, we're going to have to be a little briefer on these, but module two goes into discover how quantum phenomena persist in living systems despite environmental challenges.
Yeah, there is a solid oasis core inside of each of us. It's the eye of the storm. That whatever is happening in the outside world doesn't touch that part. It's sort of above and beyond. That's the core place that we're all trying to reach. In that place is peace and stillness and objectivity and enlightenment and health and all the rest of it. And some of that is, as we look back on the ancestors and how they came up with technologies to try to find that place and then exercise that place and strengthen that place. First of all, is finding the place. There's this wonderful little book called Zen Flesh, Zen Bones. Everybody should buy that book. In the back of the book, there's 15th century woodcuts in a story called The 10 Bowls, the 10 steps to enlightenment, the 10 stages we all have to go through. And the first stage is searching for the bowl, this place. Stage two is seeing the footprints of the bull, and then finding the bull, and then taming the bull, and then riding the bull home, and then transcending the bull, and then transcending bull and self, finding the source, which is, each one of these has an illustration, and finding the source is just a circle. And number 10, after all those stages of finding the bull and taming the bull and transcending it and all the rest of it, number 10 is in the world. And the verses that go with these are astounding. So in the world is, I awake in the morning and I grab my bowl and my staff and I go to the market. I walk to the market. The birds strew flowers at my feet, and everyone I look upon becomes enlightened. It all ends up here in my life in the world, that at a certain point from the master's standpoint, my meditation in my meditation room with my butt on a pillow, I have to graduate from that. And I have to bring my meditation into my life. That my life becomes my meditation. That everything I do is the opportunity to wake up. And that washing the dishes becomes a holy exercise. That chop wood, carry water. I put my hand on the doorknob to open the door and something happens. I'm here. And it doesn't have to be more complicated than that. Finding that still place where all of it becomes hyper real is the challenge. And now we have cooler and better and more sophisticated tools to observe how to find that.
Module three, harness the biophysical power of sound to influence cellular and nervous system function.
Yeah, I mean, we have these tools like brainwave entrainment, specific types of soundtracks, headphones, sound tables, certain types of meditations, chant, power of voice. Once we began to, so there was something in the center of all this that delving into these mysteries about how it all works down to a quantum field is cool, but there's something about that knowledge that opens something up in me. It's not just useless exercise. When I start to put principles in practice, my substrate of that information becomes important. That this level of information about what is the stuff of reality and how does it work helps me to wake up. That there's something important about understanding this information that in itself is important about waking up. And when you apply that with technologies and soundtracks and vibrations and all the rest of it, you enhance the whole process. But that substrate of information that you begin to learn as you go on your journey becomes, those are all engrams. Those are all vibrational engrams. A memory is an engram. A memory is the energy field locked in a form of a memory. My memories have power. um,
Yeah. Module 4 then goes into aligned brain rhythms to enhance focus, relaxation, and conscious awareness.
well, that is brain entrainment. And so my personal brain entrainment can be generic, where I can take a soundtrack of theta like we listened to and put headphones on it and take me to another place and shift me. Uh, but if I take, 100 people and they all put headphones on and all listen to that same soundtrack at the same moment, which is what we just did, you have a brain entrainment mind link. We now have 100 people whose brainwaves have been scientifically engineered to go to exactly the same brain state. And as soon as you get people's brains in the vicinity of each other to the same brain state, they suck together to the same place through the coupled oscillator network phenomenon. And there's power in numbers. That when you have circles of people who can be engineered to the same exact brain state, you have the possibility of opening up higher dimensional doorways to higher dimensional information and the possibility of it the other way around, higher dimensional influence on the structure of the universe and the way things are going. If you take that group of people and you move it one step more, where I'm using heart rate variability with a patch, a positive and a negative lead that goes through my heart to get the HRV reading to show me what frequency is your fundamental that balances your core. I can do that with a group of people. We have a group of people sitting in a circle holding hands, and we break two people apart and put one patch on one wrist and one patch on the other wrist. Now, to complete the circuit, it has to go through everybody's body. What pops up on my screen is the autonomic nervous system of the group entity showing a stress response. I do the sound sweep until that collapses. I just scientifically collapsed the barrier among a whole group of people and found the tone of the group. Now we're aligning this phenomenon of group empowerment, brain entrainment to the same conscious place that is not generic. And there's a big history that goes back with this, all the way back to the Tibetans, through 12th century England in a monastery called Lindisfarne. 12 monks understood the principle of two or more gathered in his name, call forth the Holy Spirit. There's power in numbers aligned consciously together that can open doorways that are bigger than any person in that group. We sorely need that today because the world is in a really tough shape and we are all being called forward now. We
Mm-hmm.
feel it. All of us feel it. We know it. We can see this. These groups are forming. We see the groups are seeing each other and forming together. There's a spontaneous arising in the world of a counterforce to the dark forces,
Mm.
which historically always happens.
Yeah. Module 5, understand how biological systems organize energy for coherence in water and cellular vibrations.
Yeah, this concept of coherence is a foundational principle that goes all the way to the quantum field. For instance, the all the body processes are tuned in such a way to save energy. It's an ecological universe trying to get the most work with the least amount of energy expended, no waste. The body is the same way. So we have body clocks. The center of the body clocks is a little organ inside the center of your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. That is the seat of the body clocks. It's linked in with the pineal gland. The pineal gland is linked to light dark fields. So we have seasonal uh, setting our body thermostat to the correct season to save energy. And when that's messed up, we have seasonal affective disorder. If you're a woman, you have an ovulation cycle every 28 and a half days because you're dancing with the moon. We're dancing with the full moon, new moon cycle of 28 and a half days. We're dancing with the universe in thousands of different ways that we're not aware of. Um, all of it in order to save energy. The Schumann resonance, 7.83 hertz electromagnetic fields between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere, is entraining all biological life forms on the planet together to a giant mind link of the borderline between alpha and theta. Um, when you do brainwave entrainment to that state, something big happens. You reconnect with the whole planet biome. Human beings have disconnected from it because of all of our electronics, and weird electronic noise are messing that signal. Hike out to the middle of nowhere and you get the signal back. Headphones and do a brain entrainment to the Schumann resonance, you get the signal back.
Hmm. Cool. Module 6 then goes and explore how sound environments support nervous system balance, stress regulation, and cellular health.
Yeah, well, the scientific community and the medical community around the world all agree stress causes disease. But in reality, not it's not the stress, it's my autonomic nervous system's ability to handle the stresses coming at me from the outer world and my inner world. That's called allostatic load. Allostatic load is a description of my ability to handle the stresses coming at me and achieve this homeostasis state between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system, which is where I'm supposed to be living. So increasing stress as I get older means I have to create a new stress adaptation and create a new stress point for zero stress under increased stress environments. If it goes too far and the stress gets too big and I can't adapt anymore, that's the beginning of disease. That is what causes disease. I can't adapt to the stresses anymore. And I get permanently locked in a sympathetic mode where nobody's minding the store anymore and all my systems start to drift, and that becomes disease. So now we have technologies that can, so for instance, this biotuning phenomenon that I came up with of HRV, I can see the stress, I can do a sound sweep and find a frequency that collapses the stress to zero. I just solved that problem. And I've awakened the internal physician program whose job it is to fix all the things wrong with me. Right?
Cool. And then finally, Module 7, how sound expands consciousness and enhances awareness, creativity, and collective harmony.
Yeah, but we've touched on many of those things. The sound is the premier tool of all time. Probably the first use was chant, mother singing a lullaby. We're born of sound. At 16 to 24 weeks, the brain development happens, matures to a point where all five senses come online. I'm floating in amniotic fluid, body temperature float tank. and I'm in the dark. So the eyes don't work, the nose and mouth are filled with the fluid, they don't work. My whole experience of the womb is a sound vibrational experience. So no wonder sound is the premier tool for digging to the deepest part of my subconscious mind, because it's the first thing I ever experienced. And therefore, the sound environment that I heard in the womb would be important. Heartbeat, respiration of my mother's diaphragm, internal organ noises. This matrix of sound has a deep imprint on my body. If I can use those sounds later on, I can tap that open. We call that primordial, recognizable sounds that cause a knee-jerk response of opening. Brainwave entrainment, vibrational input devices like sound tables and sound chairs. This vibrational sense network in my body is completely separate from hearing. It's got its own unique properties for healing and for awakening that when you start to delve into it, it blows your mind. I mean, you can stop Parkinson's shaking within 60 seconds of being on a sound table with a proper frequency playing through your body. Doesn't
Whoa.
work with headphones. It only works on the sound chair or a
Hmm.
sound table.
That's
Um,
amazing. Well, Jeffrey, it's clear just like what a vast amount of knowledge that you have and so many domains coming together. This course is going to be really groundbreaking and mind-blowing and so practical as well. So again, the whole program is laid out at neurosoundhealing.com, and I'll share a little bit more about it. So if you choose to move forward, you're going to get those 7 90-minute live sessions with Jeffrey, which includes recordings, both video and audio. You can ask your questions live. You can get word for word transcripts. There's weekly exercises for home. There's a community group to support you and deepen your experience, as well as small group time to connect with other participants. On the page, you'll also see there are a number of extra bonuses that Jeffrey has agreed to include. There's a whole audio on the Schumann resonance, which we talked a little bit about earlier. There are 4 audio tracks called the Healing Mind System. And then there's a special bonus that you get if you sign up by midnight tonight Pacific time, which is an audio by Jeffrey called the Flow Frequency. It's all about clarity, synchronization, and effortless momentum. So, Jeffrey, you want to share a little bit more about the flow frequency people get by midnight?
a flow state. Tiger Woods is out on the golf course, and there's 50 million people watching, and there's $100 million on the line, and it's somehow he's got the ability to close all that out and go into some special space with it's just him and the ball. And him and the ball's going to go there, and the ball goes there. You enter into this flow state, you enter into this state where everything flows. It all just happens exactly the way it's supposed to. That and scientific research in the last 5 years in particular have nailed exactly what brain state that is. What brain frequencies are happening at the flow state. It's a borderline state between alpha and theta. Very close to the Schumann resonance, because depending on which textbook you look at, alpha is 13 hertz down to 7 or 8 before theta starts. So in between that gap of 7 and 8 is 7.83 hertz of Schumann resonance and 7.5 hertz, which is now officially the flow state. So that means that we can use a brainwave entrainment soundtrack at 7.5 hertz to pick the lock of the flow state program in your brain and take it to the gym and listen to it every day and strengthen it up. And the thing is, if you're trying to improve your golf game, then you put headphones on and listen to it while you do your physical activity to anchor all that in.
That's amazing. Well, what a great extra bonus and a great reason to sign up right away. So clearly this program is going to be packed with so much value, so much insight, so much leading edge science. We've kept the investment very accessible for it. It's just 3 payments of $128. You can save 10% when you pay in full with one payment of $349. The course is going to start June 1st and run Mondays, 11 a.m. Pacific, and that's 1 Eastern. But even if you can't make the live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings, the transcripts, and the community as well. some great testimonials. Jeffrey is like super popular with all the people who have taken courses with him. So you're in really good hands, and you will get the absolute leading edge of this whole field of sound healing if you choose to move forward. So again, it's all at neurosoundhealing.com. And again, the course title is Quantum Acoustics, Biophysics, and Consciousness. Use sound to regulate the nervous system, improve brain states, and support healing. So, Jeffrey, thank you for a mind-blowing time together. Anything still on your heart you want to say for folks who are considering doing the course with you?
Do it now or be square.
What a great way to close. Well, thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you for being such a wonderful explorer and a great guide to all these realms. So, thank you for today, and thank you for your upcoming course. Many
Thanks for
blessings.
the opportunity.